Okay, it's Sunday, July 31st, 2022. This is my second video, and I'm going to get a little bit deeper in this one, but it's not all going to be like that. I wanted to do a video on environmental conditioning and its effect on everything you do in life, then the person you become. I'm going to get a little bit deep here with dimensions and stuff, but I'll try not to make it too complicated. Reality, as I'm aware, is within you, and you have to find it. Most commonly through breathing exercises, but also just being present. So there's no such thing as your past, that's finished, it's all gone. You can't do anything about that unless you're like 7th, 8th dimension demigod. And there's no future, because all that exists is this, basically. And when you're a child, that's all you see, especially when you're a baby. And slowly that changes. You become more and more conditioned to think about, oh, what have I got to do tomorrow? Oh, I've got to put my shoes on. Oh, I've got to do this. And then that, depending on what other things affect you, can change drastically, even at age 10 or something, but especially in your 20s, after your 20s. Like you see people, I mean, there's a man across the road, for example. I've never seen him talk to anyone. And you say hello to him when he walks past, and he's so afraid, he's so in fear, he hasn't got the confidence to even put his head up and say hello. There's a woman next to them who is absolutely in fear, and she's just constantly ill. There's always something wrong with her. She's got cancer at the moment, her hair's all out. And I mean, I was under the car with a professional mechanic the other day, and she came up to me and said, oh, you shouldn't be under the, you have to be careful, oh, it could crush you. And I'm like, firstly, what's it got to do with you? But then I thought, actually, it's very nice. She's actually caring. She's caring. She's being loving in some respects. But then I thought, she hasn't got the sense to actually see, look, I've got a flipping mechanic with me. the car's more than safe, you know. And that's the problem. She's externalizing, not only worrying about herself, but every bloody one else. And I don't know what her childhood was like. I can bet she got the confidence knocked straight out of her. I don't know. But I know she's been a teacher, which is a bit weird. So, basically, your consciousness or whatever, your experience is in here. This that we can see is sensed by eyes, noses, mouths, ears and touch and whatever. There's other senses which we're largely unaware of, most the average person anyway, which is energy fields. And I can't feel it that far, but I'm very sensitive to it. I mean, I can feel pharamic energy like that. I can feel that. And I've only just developed that recently, as I've kind of ascended. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the energy field's massive, because you can actually affect people just by walking into their space, into the room, depending on what it is. If you're manically depressed, I mean, I've been with people, there's a photographer at a wedding the other day. Everything he said was negative. Everything. It was just, and it was very, I think he's depressed big time. 2020 must have knocked it out of him. And he's not going about it the right way, because him and his wife were just bantering off each other. And that only goes one way, you know. People are in their own personal hell. Heaven and hell, if you're taught that still, is right here, in the now, is right here. Right here, you know. Because that will determine every thought, decision and action that you make, which will determine what will happen in the next timeline or future that you go to, because the future is fluid and it will react to how you are and how you see yourself. You can only do that by going inside, which can take people have it when they're born, especially at the moment. Some people never do it, you know. They can try all their life, but if they're so conditioned by the environment, because most of us are all born as pure souls, especially now, as I've said. The light's here. I mean, it's mental. There's a big gift coming through. We're shifting to 5G, which is we'll get into in a minute. And what affects that is how you perceive things. From what I see, everything's a cycle, but more importantly, there's an opposite to. There's always opposites. You've got that in all the ancient religions. You've got that yin yang, electricity. You know, on a battery. You got opposites: positive, negative, heaven, hell. What else? Yeah. So, and what will affect you is what you surround yourself with and what you let into your life, because it's up to you. It's your decision. I haven't watched the news for probably at least 20 years, maybe 15, because I remember. Well, I switched off the news long ago. Because it is literally just an amalgamation of all the most horrible things that have happened in the world to keep you scared. I like to think it's because they have sponsors, and that gets people addicted and they're coming back. But I think it's a bit more benign than that. It's to really keep your energy levels down. If you're on a low vibrational frequency, it's very easy for other dimensional beings, whatever, forces, energies to come and take you. And you won't even know it. When you see people that are depressed, well, some people actually can see dark shadows following them. I'm not sure on the validity of that, but it's quite common to see that. But I don't believe things until I've really witnessed it firsthand, or so yeah. And watching the news, for example, having a Facebook feed, seeing adverts come through. It all affects you. I don't know where it's going to lead. They're talking about a metaverse at the moment, which is like almost a 3 to 5 dimensional reality that's in the real world, which is out there apparently. And there'll be wearables to start with, like goggles or something. But I'm sure they'll do implants at some point, which to a lot of people are wholeheartedly going to take on board. And that is no different to this reality. It's just a different way of experiencing it. Technically, like, everything's real. Star Wars is real. Everything's real, apparently. So, and everything is there to let you make a choice. You can choose. You could choose between taking the V, which was a lot of people had in 2020, or not taking the V and not giving in to social pressures, because you've got the ability to see logic and sense. It's probably not the best example. Anything. I mean, every decision you make will change the timeline and the reality that you go into. But most importantly, it's what you put out. If you put out love, wholehearted love, compassion and passion in everything you do, even when it's doing the dishes, singing when you're doing the dishes, when you see someone, just be loving to them, and people will react so differently. I've seen it recently. Oh my God, like people actually, Toby, and people just don't act like they used to. They're so much nicer to me because I'm nicer to them. I'm giving out the energy, and they may be sensing it, but they can see I'm not a threat to them, and I'm actually interested, which has been the biggest problem for me, to actually be interested in people and ask them and say, oh wow, that's amazing, I've just started ice hockey. Oh, that's cool, I've never watched that. What does that involve? Don't you get beaten up a lot? Things like that make people feel like they're being loved, because everyone is a child at heart. They looked back towards when they were innocent. That's the way I see it. That's why you see old women, especially older people, love babies and children who are pure, because they subconsciously or consciously remember when they were like that before they got fucked up by sitting before the internet days, sitting in front of their telly box with their parents. Dun, dun, dun. I remember it with the grandfather and grandmother. Dun, 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 bum, bum, bum. Hello, this is the news. It's so fucked up. You are a horrible person. I'm going to make you feel guilty. Oh. And Coronation Street, EastEnders, it's so negative. I know things have moved on a bit because you can make a lot more choices now, and hopefully that's going to change. I'm noticing it now, especially with the schooling system you're in. They're very good actually at understanding you as an individual, rather than, especially when my parents were brought up, boy, sit down! And then if you didn't do as you're told, they'd get a great big board rubber, which is about this big, solid wood, and chuck it at you. Apparently. Can you imagine that? These days. And if you were that bad, you'd get sent to the headmaster, and you know what he'd do? He'd get a great big cane and actually enjoy, no doubt, smacking you with it on your hand. Bang! Imagine that. And imagine what their parents went through when they were being brought up. So it's going in the right direction. That's my point. It's a very different world at the moment in many respects. Personally, I think the evil powers to be are struggling because they're getting to desperate measures. But there's no such thing as evil. There's no such thing as bad. I know I said that, but It's what you perceive and how you deal with things emotionally and stuff like that. I know I'm waffling, but I'm trying to give as much advice as I can. Something interesting happened the other day. I got a cold, which I don't often get ill, considering I got told by my specialist that I was going to die in 2020. I got offered the V very, very quickly before, when all the old people got it, basically. And I hardly ever get ill. And I felt it. I was like, oh no, I had a wedding coming up. And I said, you know what, I'm going to try something. I'm going to be compassionate rather than go away, pour Benylin down my throat. I said, I know you're here, and I appreciate you're just trying to live your life cycle. You can stay, but be aware, I do not want you to make me very ill, and I want you to go as soon as you've done what you need to do. Okay? Thank you. And I didn't get that much ill. There's not really much scientific justification for that, but I'm going to carry on with that, and if it's 30 years down the line, then I've got flipping good proof. But anyway, so the main thing is, as you get older, you'll be influenced, but you will also go through cycles and different development peaks and troughs of your being. When you get towards 40, I'm in what a lot of people call the midlife crisis. I actually think it's an opportunity you're given. It's a gift to become, to ascend, basically, to become enlightened. I'm pretty sure I'm almost there. And that sounds like, oh, we must be Jesus. No, it's not. It's just being aware that you're aware. Being aware of your awareness, and then once you're aware, there's nothing that can touch you. And I came up with a good analogy the other day. Basically, I've looked out of the box. I've been in the box the whole life, this little cardboard box. I've looked out of it and gone, oh, okay, I can see the box factory. What the hell's that? There's a lorry unloading going in. Now I've stood up and I've stood out of the box. And this has taken me a few years, mind you. Now I'm looking into the box. Do you know what I mean? And I can see everything. Potentially I could jump in ahead. Maybe I could fly over the fence and stuff and see what else is there. That would be like fifth dimension or whatever, when I can actually be in the now like I was when I was a child. And Edward, you're very good at that. I really do love watching you playing. You both are at times, but mostly Edward. You are just so present, and I remember being like that when I was your age, because we're very similar. What a joy, what a joy. Please don't change. Try and keep that access to being a daydreamer. Don't let any teacher, I used to get told, stop daydreaming, concentrate on your maths or whatever. Well, I'm just sat there looking out the window, just imagining, just watching a bee, or in my own world. And it was bliss, and that gets conditioned out of you by other people. And I'll tell you why. Because other people, to some extent, at varying times, everyone changes. Like one day, I mean, I can be a monster at times. I can be an absolute monster, low vibrational frequency, but I'm aware of that now, and I don't go into that zone if I can. But yeah, and what was I going to say? Yeah, if you watch The Matrix at some point, which I'm sure you will, there's a character called Agent Smith. Now, Agent Smith and the other agents are there to protect the Matrix. They're a basic computer code which comes in like three-dimensional form, but there's no such thing. They're a computer code, and they will take over bodies. And you can see it when you challenge someone who has an emotional belief that's irrational and absolutely non-tangible or logical. And when you challenge them in a nice way, you say, well, what about this? That doesn't make sense, does it? Like Noah's Ark. Oh, that's a good one. Noah's Ark. I got told when I was a child that there was a geezer called Noah, and the whole world flooded, right? And he was the only one that survived. He built a boat and put 2 of every single animal, insect, bird, whatever, in this boat, right? Wooden boat. And the whole world flooded. We're going to have like 200-meter flipping waves here, right? So how the hell did this boat firstly stay upright? And how did he go around the whole world and collect 2 of each animal? Especially the insects. I don't know how many insects are in the Amazon. There's hundreds of thousands of different species. They find one, like dozens every day. But that's ego talking, really, from my point of view. And that's another thing. That's my inner ego reflecting on someone else. So it's really difficult. And you will challenge them on that, and they will glaze over. And sometimes they'll agree with you, and you'll see them get to a certain point, and they'll just go back to where they started. Which the one thing I've learned from that, especially in 2020, when I was trying to use logic and reason to try and just understand what these people are thinking, it was a real shock to me and a lot of other people I know, big time, which I have to thank them for, because it drove me to doing this right now. But anyway, but it's useless. It's useless to try and do that, because it's within you. And actually be your wonderful self. If everyone around you believes that there's a boat that had 2 animals and somehow all of those animals survived, because obviously if one lion dies, you're not going to have any more lions unless she was already pregnant or whatever. Actually, potentially that could have been a genetic database taken off world. So there we go. Anyway. Because there's been accounts of spaceships or whatever, multi-dimensional crafts since day one. Actually, we saw one the other day, I think, but that's another story. You saw it as well, William. You said, "Is that a man in a flying suit?" Ask me about that. That's really fun. Me, you, and Mummy saw that. It flew over the house. It was silent. It looked like a bird, and it was twisting, and it was about the size of a car. So it definitely wasn't a bird of prey. And I'm wondering whether it was a multi-dimensional being. But anyway. This shit's happening. It's cool, and it's potentially only happening because all the crazy stuff that's happening in the world, let's say, like there's food shortage at the moment, and there's food depots being burnt down, and no one's going, hang on a minute, woo. There's war in Ukraine, and suddenly this whole demic thing just disappeared. And I'm just sat here going, what the fuck? And everyone's banging on about Russia. Just like that, boom, and it'll move on to something else, which to me suggests it's not real, and nothing's technically real, and I have a choice. This is being presented to me externally. You've always got a choice, but you can't often have a choice of staying away from it, especially when you're at school, on a bus, you listen to the news and someone's car. You can't just turn it off. You could ask. But it's what's up here and how your mental space deals with things in the moment, and I'm finding that quite difficult at the moment. I'm trying to shut out the narratives that are going on and go towards more spending my time with very, very nice, positive people, some of which you'll probably meet. I've only just started that. Jackie White, Pam Gregory, Tim Wilde. They're big characters in the world of this, and they've been attracted to me, which is good. So yeah, so all I can say is be the best you at any one time. Smile, always be positive, be nice to other people, take an interest in them. That's the key. There's a book called Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Read it. It's so good. It's a bit old now, but it is the Bible of how to make people like you, and it's so simple, and I've never got it. I still don't get it. Basically, just take an interest in them and be loving and go to their inner child and make them feel wanted. That's what any human wants. We're a social being that's being repressed. A lot of other people being repressed by constantly being distracted by crap they don't need. Like our house even is just a flipping warehouse full of crap. I mean, I bought this year before last. I've never used it. Stuff like that, you know. And people will see it in your eyes that you have a compassionate soul. You're awake, and they will be drawn to you. And you can then potentially do your life lesson, which I don't know. I think you'll find out when it's the right time. I know what mine is now, and I'm 41, so you got loads of time. Just have fun, be nice to people, spend time with lovely girls, if that's your thing. If it's not, whatever, I don't care. And always live with your passions. Do things you love. If there's a point in time that you don't like something, do something else. Do it. Yeah. If you don't like your job, get another job. Simple. So many miserable people out there, and just chained to the system. Don't be one of those people, because I was depressed at 20 something, and then I realised like what life is, And it took me a long time. It took me 10 years probably. And then I met Mummy. That really helped. Really, really helped. She showed me what it is to be a decent, loving, fantastic human. You're very lucky. Really, really lucky. I'm very lucky. Well, I'm extremely lucky actually. She's put up with me for so long. But we're on a journey, both of us. We're all on a journey. And it was destiny for me to be with Mummy, and I've pushed her hard for her to deal with her emotional. Oh, that's a good one. She's got a lot of emotional baggage from when she was young, and I believe she's born so pure. But she's getting there, and she's doing so well. She's gaining her true self back, which is fantastic. And my job, and Mummy's job, is to try and keep you as your fantastic, loving, human souls that you are. There's nothing more that we can do better than that. So, peace, and we both love you so much. We're both so proud of you, how you've evolved as children. I never ever imagined, I know I said this in the last video, but we both are so proud of you. Never imagined such wonderful children. So, thank you very much, and see you in the next one. I'll try and make it a bit more easy to follow, a bit more fun.